it's been since the Shogun fight that I've done a video, but you know, I'm here, been busy, so I'm sorry. I suck. Let me just go ahead and run down UFC 110 that's coming up later this month. First fight on the night is going to be Cro Cop versus Ben Rothwell. Both guys lost, and they're both in their last fights. Now we know Cro Cop has been aging the last couple of years, so he's actually kind of starting to slow down. His kicks, they've gone bye-bye. He doesn't do them anymore. And I think that's because in the cage, everybody can just circle to his left. I'm sorry, to his right, away from his leg kick. Now, if he wants to get back to kicking people in the head, he needs to start cutting people off to force them back to the right and force them back into his power side. I don't know why his coaches haven't implemented that, but that's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to do. He did look tentative against Gonzaga. He did take some good shots in that fight, though, so that shows his chin completely isn't gone yet. And Rothwell, on the other hand, he's a tough, seasoned guy. He can take a lot of hits, and he hits hard back as well. You saw as soon as he hit Cain Velasquez said, "I'm not going to mess with this anymore. I'm just going to take him down." And he did what Cain Velasquez does. He just took him down and beat him until the ref stopped it, even though he wasn't TKO'd or anything like that. With that said, I'm just going to take Cro Cop. I would look for him to try and chop Rothwell's legs down like a big tree since he's not that mobile. So I'm going to take Cro Cop by a TKO in the second round. The next fight is going to be Jardine versus Bader. Jardine coming off 2 straight losses, so you really don't know where his head's at. Whereas Bader, he's coming off two wins in a row against Carmelo Morero, and then he just beat Eric Schaefer a couple months back. Now, Bader did get tired in that Eric Schaefer fight, so that could be some cause for concern right there. And his stand-up really isn't there yet. It is still a little bit sloppy, and his chin hasn't really been tested yet. Eric Schaefer did catch him on the ground a couple times, but I don't think he's going to have to worry about that because Jardine's not on Eric Schaefer's level when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Now, Jardine, he's been very inconsistent, and he does have decent leg kicks, but I think every time he throws one, Bader's going to take him down. In order for Jardine to win this fight, he needs to survive the first 2 minutes. It seems if he gets over that original hump from people, then he starts to get people into his game plan. He did it to Rampage, even though he lost. He did it to Forrest, and then he did it to Chuck as well. So I'm going to say Jardine escapes this one by a decision. Next fight is going to be Joe Stevenson versus George Sotiropoulos. Now, this fight really doesn't make that much sense to me. Again, I think it's even a lower level opponent than Spencer Fisher was for Joe Stevenson. I don't know if the UFC is just trying to get his confidence back since they don't really want him to fight the top guys lately. That way they can get more opponents for BJ Penn. But Joe Stevenson, he's very experienced. He's very good on the ground. His stand-up has gotten a lot better since he's been with Greg Jackson. He looked really, really good in the Spencer Fisher fight. I was actually really surprised at how good he looked. And as far as George Sotiropoulos, he's still a little green. He's only had 13 pro fights. He's 11-2 or something like that. So his stand-up really isn't there yet, but he's got a good ground game. But even though he has a good ground game, I don't think he's going to be able to hurt Joe in any way. I think Joe's better in every single fashion of the game. So I'd look for Joe to finish this mid-second, early third. Co-main event of the night, it's going to be Wanderlei Silva versus Michael Bisping. You know, this is one of those fights where it's heart versus head. You know, everybody who's an MMA fan is a huge fan of Wanderlei. He's a pioneer of the sport. He's a big reason why people started watching it from back in his prime days. Now, Wanderlei, you know, he hits hard. He's a very wild style, but he is aging. And with that said, he's been in a lot of wars, and we don't know how he's going to look since this is his first fight at 185 officially. His last fight against Franklin was at 195, and he did tend to gas a little bit. And I think that had to do with him having to cut 15 pounds the day before the fight to make weight for that 195 cutoff. They say he's been much better with his weight this time, and that he's right already around 195 in training, and they're still a couple weeks out. Whereas Bisping, he's been at 185 for a couple of years now. He did show really good ground and pound in that Dennis Kane fight, and he also looked pretty aggressive after that early knockdown from Kane. The thing is with that, I'm not really sure if his ground and pound was so successful because Kane gassed, or if he really was good at that ground and pound. And he's got a pretty polished stand-up style, and he's got really good cardio. His game plan coming into this is going to be just like it was against Chris Leben: stick and move, don't get caught. With that said, I think he's going to get caught. I've got to go with Vanderlei. I think he hits way too hard for Bisping to handle. And Bisping did get caught against Dennis Kane too. And if Dennis Kane didn't gas, I'm pretty sure he would have come out with that fight in the winner. But he caned himself again. And that's why he's not in the UFC anymore. Now to the main event. Big Nog versus Cain Velasquez. Now Nogueira looked fantastic against Randy. You could tell that he was in shape, and he looked amazing. That was honestly one of the best fights I've ever seen Nogueira fight. His stand-up looked great. He looked great on the ground. Now the thing that was interesting in that fight is how easy he was able to reverse position against Randy when Randy is a dominant wrestler. And when he gets on top of you, he's not supposed to be able to get out of that position. Whereas Cain, he's a very good wrestler, probably the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. As far as the pace he sets, the pace he sets is insane, and that's why he beats people. He doesn't beat people because he knocks anybody out. He hasn't knocked anybody out yet because he doesn't hit very hard. But the pace he just sets is ridiculous, and people have a tough time keeping up with his tenacity, with his takedowns, and what he can do with that. That said, he's never fought a jiu-jitsu guy like Nogueira. I think Nogueira is still out of Cain's league. And I'd look for Nogueira to be able to catch Cain. I'd say second round submission by triangle choke. So we'll see how that goes. That was my fight. Those are my picks for UFC 110. I'm sorry I was gone so long, guys. And let me know what you think. As always, have a good one.